LA Noire. It's one of my favorite games of all time, despite the fact that parts of it have aged tremendously well and parts of it have aged just so horribly. It's like frankly unbelievable. I praise this game all of the time and I point to it often as a game that nails ambiance and writing, and the vision is there, but the tech just wasn't ready for the vision that they put forward here. It was definitely ahead of its time. And so today I thought it could be interesting if we go back and play a little bit of it, and I can explain some of what works so well and some of what really is lacking in 2022, 10 plus years after this game initially launched. And just so you know, I'm live whenever I upload these videos onto YouTube. Right now we're trying out streaming over on YouTube as well instead of Twitch, because Twitch is kind of exploding if we're being completely honest. But the point is, I have a second channel, Luke Stevens Live, and if you jump over here and hit the subscribe button and ring the bell, or even if you decide to join, you get a bunch of cool badges and things when you sign up, depending on how long you've been a member for. And that's important because we've been streaming on YouTube, and so in chat you get all sorts of special badges, emotes, special treatment, your comments get highlighted. It's like super cool. It's awesome. As you can see, we've got a bunch of videos that have gone up. All of these are stream highlights covering everything from the Nadia scandal to Scamilton, which is a ripoff of the Hamilton musical, reactions to gaming, trailers, news, all sorts of stuff, fun little stories that I can tell or unboxings I can do on stream. It's awesome. And it's just a ton more content for free available to you. So I suggest you jump over there, give it a sub. I'll have the links in the description box below the like button. I got a bunch of comments from people asking like, oh, I wish I could come out to the live streams, but it's just tricky, or I hate Twitch or this or that. So we're trying to mitigate it with two things. For one, streaming on YouTube, we're trying that this week, and I think we're probably gonna stick it out on YouTube if I'm being completely honest. And also, with this Clips channel, I can upload highlights and everything else that doesn't fit into a dedicated video on this main channel. So go over there, subscribe, ring the bell, check it out. I'd love to see you over there live. Who knows, I'm probably live at the moment you're watching this video over on that channel. So come by, say hi, say, oh, I just saw the video on LA Noire, and I'll be like, oh, cool, man, that's awesome, I love you. And you're gonna be like, oh, I love you too, let's hang out. And I'm gonna be like, that's a little weird. You know how it goes. Okay, I guess we'll include this in the video because this is kind of a perfect example of classic rockstar behavior nowadays. I'm trying to just play the game. I just had it running on the correct monitor. I have 3 set up here. And in the span of alt-tabbing over to that YouTube channel to show you the live stuff, now the game moved to another monitor, and when I restart the game it still is projecting to that one, and then when I try to force this one, which is the priority monitor, it doesn't work. Like look at this thing, look how stupid this is. I'm gonna swap cameras. Like look, I'm not making it up, it's playing on that monitor for some reason, and even there it's glitching out. I know, first world problems. Woe is me, look, I have 3 monitors. I can't get it working. I know. Still annoying. Okay, technical issues, I guess. We'll be right back. Cut. While I try to fix this, I guess I can explain why this is so indicative of a Rockstar release. Basically, Rockstar's been known for making some of the best games ever made. Grand Theft Auto as a series, let's be honest. Grand Theft Auto 5, Grand Theft Auto Online, Red Dead Redemption 2. I mean, everything they touch just turns to gold, let's be completely honest. But they have a habit of putting stuff out and then just not touching it ever again, even though it definitely needs some love and affection. And it's so bizarre because something as simple as maintaining stability of LA Noire you'd think would be like a priority. It's one of their biggest selling games ever, but no, they just like, who cares? I don't give a shit. But no, they don't bother with that. They don't care. It's not a priority for them because it's not Grand Theft Auto. So who gives a crap? Maybe. Oh no, you guys are seeing my cheats. Oh wow. Damn it. It went to the wrong monitor again. God mother. You guys see, this is the part of these videos that you don't see. You just see like, oh, I tried this game. It's so much fun. You don't see when I'm trying to play these old games and nothing works right. Okay, moment of truth. Oh, maybe. I've never been so happy to see a black screen. Yay, it worked. Okay, we're just gonna get in here and we're gonna select a case and just get this ball rolling because I feel like I'm I'm walking on eggshells trying to get this working right now, so we're just gonna roll with it. So the game is comprised of a bunch of different individual cases that make up a broader story, and every case opens with this cool cinematic scene which sets the stage, establishes the plot and the overarching stakes of what's going on, not just for the people involved directly in the case, but also for the investigators and everything else. So we play as Cole Phelps, a detective who is sort of an upstart. He's rising through the ranks and he's trying to make a name for himself. And throughout the game, you'll have different partners that you can work with that all have their own styles, shall we say. The first thing you'll probably notice is just how grounded the movement seems. We aren't moving super quickly. We are on staircases on like actual tracks, so you can't walk side to side in the stairwell. You're walking up a specified path so that it's just smoother, I guess. And in general, it just seems a lot more grounded and realistic. You'll also notice when I pull up the performance tab, we are capped currently at 29 frames per second. You might be wondering why that is. I mean, I'm running this game, as you can see, on a 3080, and it released over a decade ago. How on earth does this game only run at 29 frames per second? Well, you see, it actually has to do with how the game was built from the ground up and how the animation system was conceptualized from the very beginning. You'll see as we walk up, we have a very unique face animation, art style, whatever you want to call it, on every single NPC, every single character. And it's very, very unique. We haven't really seen that with any other releases, as far as I know, in like the history of gaming. This was cutting edge tech when the game launched, but nowadays it looks bizarre and no other major studio implemented this technology. They just kind of bailed on it after this one attempt at it. And the reason nobody implemented it is because it's extremely expensive and it's extremely difficult to pull off, not just for the performers, but also for the developers. What they would do is they would have the actor go into a booth surrounded by cameras, capturing nothing but the actor's face. And then as they delivered lines, it would do what's effectively photogrammetry, where they go and map a 3D model off of the different two-dimensional images they capture from the cameras as they give their performance. And it creates what was, for the 360 generation, amazing performances and carefully nuanced acting and facial expressions and things. But the problem is you are capped to the overall frame rate at which you captured the facial expressions. You can't just crank that up to 200 frames a second because it was only captured in 29 or 30. And the developers knew this, which is why they just decided to make the entire game based off of this 30 FPS frame limit. And the developers knew that, which is why they based all of the game's development on 30 FPS. Everything from event timings to the facial animations to the cinematics, all are based on 30 frames. So before somebody comes in and is like, oh, you can just probably patch the INI file or mod it to get 60 frames, it's not actually like that. You can't just go in and do that. And in fact, I tried it once, and if you change the frame rate and allow it to go to 60, for example, a bunch of quest lines won't work properly because vehicles have their movement tied, for example, to the frame rate, where they move a set distance over a frame, meaning that if you double the frame rate, the whole thing falls apart because the game's speed doesn't know what to do, because all of a sudden things are moving twice as fast as they should be. And this is one of those things that just hasn't aged well. The game doesn't have a lot of scalability in terms of performance, also with graphics and resolutions. And as you can see, just trying to get this thing running is a bit of a chore, at least on my PC for some reason. And just the fact that you cannot play this thing at any frame rate higher than 30 for a lot of modern gamers feels off if you're trying to play it on PC or even on something like PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X, where you've become accustomed to 60 frames over the last 2 years since those consoles dropped. And when we look at the game now, you can see that it's not really up to snuff compared to what like Naughty Dog or Sony Santa Monica are doing with native models. But for, again, the Xbox 360, this was cutting edge. Nothing was anywhere near this in terms of fidelity. I mean, you can see their lips moving, you can see their teeth revealed, you can see their eyebrows and brow furrowing. Like, the level of detail is off the charts for when this game came out, which is why it was so far ahead of its time. And I mean, it makes sense why they would prioritize this, because this game was all about reading facial cues. The whole idea is that you are a detective trying to solve crimes. And one of the ways they wanted you to do that is by looking over evidence like we're doing right now, and then evaluating the face that we see on screen to tell whether or not somebody might be deceptive or withholding information. They couldn't do that with animation quality that you had on your standard Xbox 360 title, so they were forced to come up with something new and innovate. And innovate they did, though it was in a way that had some major drawbacks. You can see when it comes time to question somebody, we have a little person of interest sheet here in our notebook, and then we can go through and ask individual questions. So in this case, this guy was arrested while driving a stolen vehicle, so we can ask him questions related to that specifically.
Purchased this car from Coombs Automotive Company.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so he said that. We can now evaluate his expressions. He doesn't seem to be that cocky or nervous or anything, so I'm gonna assume that that was probably true.
And the ownership papers?
From the same place.
Okay, interesting. He gives me the papers and I can look over this and evaluate it.
If this is a forgery, it's top notch. This will need to be traced.
Interesting.
You have a criminal record, Mr. Harrison?
No, nothing like that.
So like with this, he just said no, nothing like that to a question about a criminal record. He's glancing away, blinking kind of quickly. He looks a little bit nervous, so I'm going to assume that he probably is not being completely truthful with me. But when I look at my notebook, I don't have evidence to directly call him out and say, no, you're lying for sure. I have a criminal record for you right here. So instead, if I look at him, I get the feeling that he's not being truthful, but I can't prove it. What I do is I back out and I just doubt.
You better give us something, Cliff, or we're gonna make this hard on you.
I didn't steal the car. I ran because I've got some wacky backy in the glove compartment.
How much, Cliff?
One reefer.
A whole
You're
reefer?
in enough trouble.
Oh! You've also probably noticed a fair amount of screen tearing over the last couple of minutes. I just checked it, and there is no way to turn on VSync or anything like that. So that's another big L on the part of Rockstar. That's lame.
The owner, Richard Coombs.
Richard Coombs sold it. Okay, I believe
You
you.
made out the bill of sale personally?
Of course he did. He kept a facsimile for his records. Check with him.
Okay.
We're going to get to the bottom of this, Harrison. Until we do, you're going downtown.
Downtown.
You gotta be kidding me. I'm getting arrested for buying a goddamn car.
If everything is legit, Harrison, you'll be out soon. Until then, if I were you, I'd keep my mouth shut.
For real.
Bag his possessions as evidence and have him arraigned for Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
Right, detective.
And shoot
You
him
know who
too.
my father is?
We need to get to Coombs Auto and check out Harrison's story.
So now we're headed to our next destination, and we do this, of course, by driving. And this is where a lot of criticism with LA Noire came about, because you navigate this big open world Los Angeles that the developers, Team Bondi, crafted for you, and it's pretty convincing. It's a really good realization and recreation of 1940s Los Angeles. It actually is pretty well done, I gotta say. I mean, it's not like I was there back in 1940, so like, what do I know? I have no idea if this is accurate, but it looks pretty good. It looks believable to me. But the reason that this game was criticized for this world is because it's actually pretty bland and empty. There's not a whole lot here to do other than bounce between locations that they assign you to. You can't just like walk in a store, go shopping for new outfits. You can't go and stop random crimes that spawn. There's scripted crimes that occur throughout the game where you can go and stop them as they appear, but they're heavily scripted. Like I said, it's not dynamic or anything. And it makes it feel as though the world is great to look at in passing, but if you look at it even moderately seriously, you'll realize how empty it is. Okay, you'll also notice that some of these actors that are in this game are actually like pretty well known and accomplished, and this guy you're gonna recognize. But one of the things you'll also notice about this guy is one of the issues with this facial capture tech that they implemented. Basically what happens is, like I said, the actors would sit in the booth with cameras on their face and then they would do the performance. But that was separate from their body movements. So they were trying to imagine what they were doing in the scene while just animating and moving their face to it. And they would have to match it. And you don't realize, like when you walk, your facial expressions are going to be different than when you're just seated completely still with tons of lights and cameras on you. It's going to be different. You know what? Let me just show you what I mean. Let's talk to this guy. It's the best example I can give. Okay.
Are you the owner?
Starts on normal.
Richard Coombs at your service.
Do you recognize
You
him?
looking to trade in a black and white, boys?
Mr. Coombs, we're investigating an auto theft. A man by the name of Cliff Harrison claims he bought the car here.
Well, some people would say that my cars are a steal. That's a joke, son.
Very amusing.
Not true. Not true.
I remember Harrison. It was a green two-tone Kaiser Fraser.
This looks good.
Rightly.
Nothing weird so far. Looks very
He's in my
normal.
office. Walk this way. That's a joke too, son.
Phelps, you mind if I shoot this guy? He's getting
Oh my God. Yeah, no, put him out of his misery. Something's clearly wrong. It's just like, it's not a big deal. I remember playing this game way back in the day. I borrowed it from my uncle who had it for the 360, and like back with the 360, this thing came on like 4 separate discs. Jacob, if you can find it, my editor, if you can find clips or like a picture of the game in that Xbox 360 case, show it. It's like, this game was so huge. I remember it so vividly. 4 different like Xbox discs. You'd have to hit a point in the story and you swap the discs out. It was great. It was great. But even back then, I remember seeing that cutscene, that walk animation that he did where his face clearly doesn't match what he's doing. And I laughed out loud for like 20 minutes straight because it looked so stupid. That's probably the only major time in the game that I noticed it extremely clearly. Like, okay, that guy was sitting in a chair still while they had a separate session for the motion capture of him wobbling. Not a big deal, but I remember that very, very clearly being just outrageous even back then. You know, it just goes to show us that we are very spoiled nowadays with the full motion capture, and then they have like the cameras mounted to the people's heads so that you can capture their facial expressions in real time and map it. We're so spoiled nowadays, it's ridiculous. I should also say right now we're investigating like auto thefts and things because we're working with the traffic department, but as the game goes on, we eventually start investigating hardcore murders and eventually a serial killer and then government corruption. Like, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And it really feels like you're progressing through this career with Cole as he starts, you know, it's just a regular blue officer, and then he works his way up the ladder to eventually being like a high up murder investigator. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. And it's also one of the reasons we're not currently playing through one of those late game serial killer missions and cases, because let's just say, I mean, it's modeled after the Black Dahlia murder from back in like 1948. I think it was somewhere around there. It's gory, it's gritty, there's nudity. It's like, it's not for the faint of heart, but it's captivating and thrilling. But obviously it's not very advertiser friendly, so we're not doing that today. Okay, so having finished that interrogation, we can come over here to this phone box and we can call in to get information on a suspect. Now, this is one of those things that makes playing through the game subsequent times kind of tedious because there's very little player agency involved in most of the minutia of the case. Of course, the interrogations, you play a key part in that, and you need to get the questions correct, and you need to present the evidence when it's appropriate in order to make sure that you progress through the case properly and get the right guy. However, when it comes to going through the actual motions of a quest line, there's a ton of hand-holding. Like right now, we have in our notebook 3 possible locations based on the interrogations and evidence that we've discovered up until this point. We can select which one we want to go to. It presents a little flag on the mini map, and then we drive there. And then once we arrive there, there's somebody to talk to interrogate, evidence to collect, and then we progress through the story until eventually we have the final accusation phase where we can say that this person did it and is guilty or isn't. Early in the game, they really take a lot of steps to make sure that you feel as though you can get cases wrong or right. But as the game goes on, it's important to note that there's a lot less agency involved with it. They have you on train tracks pretty heavily, and they're going to lead you the way that they want you to be led. I mean, towards the end of the game, pretty much every case will be predetermined how it's going to end up, and there's not much you can do to change it. But this is where the game really excels in my mind, is in the passive ambiance when you just want to escape to 1940s Los Angeles. For all the glitz and glamour, there's a ton of corruption and villainy, and it's just kind of a horrible place. Also, it's not all that it seems cracked up to be, and they do a really good job of capturing that. There's cases, of course, involving Hollywood and producers and directors who are all perverts and disgusting in their own right, but then there's cases involving these young upstarts who want to make something of themselves and want to make it big in Los Angeles and want to be successful and famous. And they just can't, because they're just getting taken advantage of every step of the way by powerful people who have seen 1,000 other people trying to do the same exact thing. And recently I did that critique of the Mafia games where I said that they did a tremendous job of capturing the time period, the ambiance, everything like that, but the gameplay really, really suffered. And I think it's the same exact thing when it comes to LA Noire. They captured the world that they were trying to build really, really well. They make you feel as though you're actually exploring 1940s Los Angeles, but the gameplay itself is pretty lacking. The actual process of going through these cases gets pretty dull by the end of it. The shooting, which there is shooting involved in this game, is laughably bad. And there's also a ton of technical issues that you have to juggle with on top of all of that. I mean, you've probably noticed just driving on this street, there's a ton of pop-in the distance, and the frame rate cap is not my favorite thing ever. But they nail the ambiance so well that sometimes I just want to get out of the car and go explore. And these buildings that have gold handles on the doors, you can actually enter and check out,
This guy must have escaped from the loony bin.
which is kind of fun, even if NPCs say random things to you. But this game is really, really good, and even though it's got its fair share of issues and shortcomings, I still think it's worth playing if you like narrative games, and certainly if you like detective games, and somehow have never played this. You can, of course, get it on Steam and try to wrestle with it that way, play it on Steam Deck on the go, or you can buy it on all major consoles and even on the Nintendo Switch, which I have to say, the Switch port is actually really good. The pop-in's really high and the LOD is really, really low, meaning that you'll see a lot of pop-in from objects and buildings far in the distance. But for a Switch port, it's actually really, really solid. And I would recommend that you probably play it there, especially if you are somebody that travels a lot or is on the bus a lot and wants to be able to play something like this on the go. It's a great game for just quickly putting 10 minutes in, set it down, pull it back up, figure out where you are in the case, continue along your way, and you know, grind through it that way. It's a great game for that. And the Switch port is really solid. I mean, after all the trouble we've had getting this to work through Steam, I'm thinking maybe we should have just like played the Switch port instead. We would have had less headaches involved. Oh, and just look at those digital baked goods. Oh my Lord, they look delicious. So go check out LA Noire. I recommend it. And you can also get it on deep sale all over the place right now. So go for it. And who knows, if you buy it and enjoy it and put hours into it, maybe Rockstar will finally listen to us fanboys who love it and make a sequel. I don't know, that'd be great. There's been rumors for years that they might do something with like a remaster or a remake or even a sequel. There was like a canceled sequel years ago that never saw the light of day, but who knows what they'll end up doing. I can keep my fingers crossed and maybe they will eventually, but let's be real. I think Rockstar only has their eyes on one major release in the near future, and I don't think it's LA Noire. Real quick, I know there's a costume change and everything. Basically, we finished the video, and then I sat down to upload it, and I realized, oh crap, I like never talked about the remaster that they did, and they sort of addressed some issues, but didn't address others. So let's talk about the remaster real quick. You can see in this footage collected by my buddy Carrick from ACG. If you guys want me to do a collab with Carrick from ACG, by the way, let me know in the comments. I have an idea for a video I want to do with him, but let me know if we should do it down below. And if there's enough support and people interested, I'll hit him up and annoy him until he agrees to come on the channel. But as you can see in the remastered version, they did a bunch of work to try and improve the texture quality, reduce pop-in, stutter, things like that. But the tricky thing with this version of the game is it's only available on console. They never brought it to PC. So the version that I've been playing throughout this video is the PC version that you'll get if you buy the game on Steam, and that is very broken and needs a lot of love. Whereas the remastered version is greatly improved, but it's only available on consoles, and it's $40 new today, which is why I'm not playing through it right now, because like 40 bucks, I mean, come on. I have the game already on PC. It should work fine. It's not my fault that Rockstar did a crappy job of maintaining the PC port. Come on. You'll also notice that they changed a bunch of little things, such as the truth, doubt, and lie. Now it's good cop, bad cop, and accuse, which I find relatively interesting. It's a small change, but it actually has a big impact. You see, it's basically because in the base game, whenever you were trying to tell what a person was feeling or communicating, you would go off of some basic facial emotions and try to judge based off of that. But often somebody wasn't necessarily lying. Maybe they were withholding information or something like that. So you would hit doubt or you'd hit lie, and the reaction from Cole would just be totally outside of what you expected. It would just be way meaner than you expected or way nicer than you expected it to be. So with this remaster, what they decided to do was to tweak things so that you can be the good cop and you'll give a pleasant answer. You can be the bad cop, which is very mean and aggressive, your typical lie situation, or accuse, where you just come out and you flatly say, you're lying and I can prove it. But let me be very, very honest. That in no way justifies like 40 whole freaking dollars. If you already have the game, don't stress about it. If you want to buy the game on Switch, don't stress it. If you find it on PC for $5, get it there. I don't think these changes are enough to really justify a whole new expense, especially because with some finagling, you can get the game working on Steam. And like, if you want to play on the go, you can play it on the Steam Deck with some tweaking. So it's possible, and you can enjoy it. You don't need to pony up $40 for a game that's 10 years old. I mean, this isn't Bethesda or anything. Yeah, speaking of Bethesda, they kind of sneakily announced that they're releasing Skyrim again for Switch for $70. Yeah, I'll just leave that there. I got pissed at PlayStation for doing The Last of Us Part 1 at $70 because I thought that was a little too steep. So Skyrim just re-releasing on Switch for $70, it's freaking unbelievable. If you want to hear my full reaction, I have my live stream clips channel, like I mentioned before, linked in the description box below the like button. Check it out over there. I have my reaction to that news when I first found out about it, in addition to a ton of reactions about other stuff. So go check it out over there if you want to hear my extended thoughts on that topic and a bunch of other stuff. But with that, I'm going to call it there. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging with me. I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you in the next video or over on the live clip channel where I'm streaming right now, like right now when you see this video. So head over there, come say hi. Oh, I just saw that Noire video. It'll be cool. See you over there. Much love. I'll see you in the next video. I'm bad at outro.